How are you doing? Thank you for coming. ¿Cómo están? Muy bien. We have here a group of professionals that share some, interesting commonalities. They are indeed all successors, but as well, they are founders in their own right. Most of them are actually alumni of the school. They're gentlemen. They kind of represent a different generation, as a younger generation of businessmen. But as well, that, if I'm not mistaken, all of their businesses had the same genesis, which was basically in the trade sector. Am I right? Yes. And that is basically a very common history among entrepreneurs in the Caribbean in general. And myself, I've been actually very much active doing consulting in some family businesses, some medium, some small, but mostly big, and especially in Colombia and Peru. And consulting for a family business is extremely, extremely difficult and very different. Because you will have to be empowered as a consultant by the founder, by the owner, okay? Which you have as well to work with the family. But once the owner is not involved in the interaction, the dynamics are very, change dramatically. I will say that they become very weird because everybody wants to be the owner. And everybody feels that they have influence over you. And you can really discover that the dynamics of the business most likely resemble of the dynamics of the family. As well, you see that the struggle that the owner has in terms of inserting family members in the operation is big. Sometimes, this group of gentlemen, it's kind of easy because they're all professionals, very well educated, but they represent the exception to the rule. One of the things that I realized whenever I became a little bit more interested in family business is that family business owners, or protagonists actually, are always concerned by just three things: management, ownership, and governance. Sometimes they focus on the three at the same time, or sometimes it's just focus on one. I have found, for instance, here in Trinidad and Tobago, there is a company where the actual owner is the executive director, but not the chairman. So he's really into more ownership, management, but not in charge of the governance, which is quite interesting. That's called Blue Waters. Okay, but that's exception. Most of family business owners or founders are really involved in the three. And I started to look, and while I was consulting with them, I started to try to understand what kind of interesting research has actually lately been done in family businesses. So I brought maybe 5 points that I would like to share with you, and then we'll start the interesting part, which is the questions. And these are really just as an introduction to the topic. One of the research findings that actually are across all the research conducted in the world in family business is that founders tend to be, you don't have it there, but we can post this in the web. That's not a problem, and actually, Founders tend to be concerned about the separation of ownership and management control. They always want, the combination of both. In general, family business tend to have a more conservative risk-taking profile, which in the long run could impact its growth pace. Very interesting research finding. Another one, generally speaking, family management has a negative relationship in performance in older firms and a positive relationship to performance in younger firms. In other words, the older the family business, the less performing they are in general. Another interesting research finding is that management entrenchment in family firms is a consequence of a strong emotional ties that might reduce sensitivity to poor performance or excessive risk-taking. Another one, the last one, lower-level executives are more likely to be held accountable for poor firm performance than executives that belong to the family. That made me think that family businesses and non-family businesses are really different, okay? And I will start with the first question. And Daniel, maybe you can help me with the answer. In what ways do you see that the goals of a family business differ from a non-family business, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, non-family businesses tend to be concerned in general with performance, bottom line profit. It's very clear what everyone's role is and goal is. So generally speaking, that is how I would see non-family businesses. Non-family businesses tend to have a different set of goals. One is to make money, to sustain the family. Another thing is to have harmony in the family. So sometimes you may have high-performing family members and low-performing family members, but there's always a desire to keep everyone on an even keel, to keep harmony. I think that extra dimension, beyond just profit, and looking at the family as a key element and keeping ties, relationships, and peace is a key difference, and that is usually where the complexion changes about it.
Any reaction?
If I can add to what Anil is saying, starting a family business. If there are those of you in the audience who are starting a business on your own, you have a family, or you're continuing the legacy of a particular business, it's really about success, like he said. In the beginning, it's always about success. And that's what's so exciting about it, right? You and your wife, you and your partner, you started this thing together, and things are going good, and you increase your standard of living, and your success, it's something that you start to crave after a while. Then you get children. Children grow up. Then you say, look, you know what? I'm working here, and I'm working for the benefit of the second generation. I want my children to have the same lifestyle that I have. As a matter of fact, I may even want more for them. The children then get married, and you're saying, listen, you know what? You may take the responsibility of saying, look, I now have spouses of my children to look after, the children of my children to look after. And so your goals change with every successive generation. And that puts more of an onerous burden on you if you're not careful. Because somewhere in there you can get lost and you can say, look, you know what? I'm not looking at the performance parameters of my business anymore. I am just looking at, look, you know what? I need to provide for my children. I need to provide for my grandchildren. I need them to go to these schools. I need them to do this. I need them to travel every year. And then the demands from the children are placed on the founders as well, too, even though these children work in the business.